Thanks for tuning in to the latest episode of Artist Talk with Bernice Akamine. Bernice is a local artist from Hawaii. She is a friend and one of the most sincere, lovable, responsible, and productive artists on the islands. Her ancestry is Native Hawaiian and Japanese American, and her creative and inviting art, she is a devout community activist. She said preserving culture is a form of activism, which she lives by. Her visual art takes on multiple forms and traditional Hawaiian techniques to advocate for indigenous land rights. Her artwork brings attention to the colonial invasion of Hawaii and its continued effects of the native Hawaiian population. Today, we speak to Bernice on her traditional Hawaiian methods, preserving cultural knowledge, and the ongoing Hawaiian sovereignty movement. We also dive into her experience participating in the 2019 Honolulu Biennial, where she displayed a large-scale installation called Kalo. Bernice was a featured artist with an expansive and far-reaching project. It featured 87 individually created plants with the participation of the descendants of the family members that signed the original petition for annexation put forth by Queen Liliuokalani of Hawaii. The base of the plants were made of stone leaves and pages from the Huayalohaina anti-annexation petitions from 1897 through 1898. After the overthrow of the Queen, these petitions were signed in protest. Her work included community participation with a moving ceremony in front of Iolani Palace. As part of her work, Bernice also traveled the same route a Queen Liliuokalani took from Hawaii to Washington, D.C., where the Queen met with the President. For the Honolulu Biennial, in addition to Kalo, Bernice also made 5 tents created with the Hawaiian flag to draw attention to the homelessness within the native Hawaiian population. Keep watching the interview, and I hope you enjoy this episode. Aloha, Bernice. It's so great to see you. How are you
Aloha.
doing?
Oh, I am great. Aloha, Taiji.
Thank you.
I'm great. I'm so busy, but busy is good, actually.
Yes,
Yeah.
you know.
So I actually sat here for a reason,
No,
but I sat here because of the piece behind me. It's a piece of kapa that I beat.
Oh, really?
So it's the Hawaiian flag.
Okay, oh, good.
It's actually like the traditional Hawaiian quilts.
Uh-huh.
But so I beat all this kapa and then I cut it up and pieced it together. But it's sort of a flag of protest.
Mm-hmm.
So they would make these Hawaiian flags, Hawaiian flag quilts.
Yes.
In the 1800s, late 1800s. And it was to honor specific kings and then you have later on they become quilts of protest. Right. Where you have flags that are crossed, and that is a protest quilt about the overthrow of the Hawaiian monarchy and support for Queen Liliuokalani. Right. So anyway, I made one.
Oh, it looks so beautiful. It's
Thank you.
I don't think of kapa like. Did you? I'm sorry. Maybe first tell the audience
what
kapa
kapa
is. Yeah.
So kapa is so you can either say tapa or kapa, and it's traditional bark cloth. So kapa, when you use that word, it's specifically Hawaiian. So every culture has a name for their bark cloth. Okay. So this one, it's bark cloth, and it's made out of vauke, the paper mulberry. So the same plant that's used for paper making. Okay, right. And washi and those kind of things, yeah. Right. So, but for Hawaiians, they could beat it fresh or they would ferment it. And so Hawaiians were the only ones that really fermented it. And when you do that, you can actually beat it very thin and even lace-like. You know, this is more of a general question because, you know, I think finally the world is getting more in tune with indigenous rights of Native people and things. And is there hope for you? I mean, do you see advancement for recognition and the value of indigenous people? I think that's a tough question. I mean, so when you say, do I see hope? I see hope because I see our cultural practices expanding.
Okay.
So I definitely see hope. I see hope because I see things like Hawaiian immersion schools where we didn't have that before.
Mm-hmm.
The language is growing and flowering. And because the Hawaiians did that, the
Mm-hmm.
Native Americans are now doing that.
Mm-hmm.
And they look to Hawaii
Mm-hmm.
to see for the model of immersion schools.
Okay.
You know, I see hope because I'm also on that board of directors for Amy Greenwood Ethnobotanical Garden,
Mm-hmm.
all Hawaiian plants.
Okay.
I see hope because we are still trying to preserve the plants. We have so many. Hawaii, for the United States, we have the largest number of endangered species in the United States on that list.
Oh, wow.
And I see hope because I see things like the Hawaiian hawk, the eel, coming off of the list. So we're doing some things right. There's so much more that we can do. Sovereignty. I see hope, even though you have all of these groups who seem not to agree on things, and it's very difficult. But I started working with Hawaiian House List, I think it was in 97. And the Hawaii Ecumenical Coalition was one of the groups that was supporting the work that I was doing. So I got invited to this meeting with all these leaders from these different sovereignty groups, and everyone was arguing. And he said, what they need to realize is they all want the same thing, but they just have different perspectives. Once we can come together and realize we want the same thing, we all want sovereignty, because the overthrow was illegal, and it's still illegal. And this relates to my work. Why I do this work is, of course, to get the word out, not just to Hawaiians, but to others, because we don't need just Hawaiian support. We need the support of everyone in Hawaii, because we are a minority. And if people don't support us, this will never happen, because we are a minority.
Right.
And the Hawaiians, years ago, when the petitions were taken around in the 1800s, they realized that, which was why they allowed non-Hawaiians to also sign. That's how I feel, because otherwise you wouldn't have them. But I have hope, because I think more of us are speaking up, and the knowledge is readily available for people who come to learn and to know that this is wrong, and that sovereignty is the way for us as Hawaiians. I think it's such an exciting time, because if you've been following Mauna Kea, you have all these young leaders stepping forward. Of course, you have the kupuna, you have the old guard, and that's very important. You must never forget. And we should always connect back, all the way back as we can. And you will see that the voices have always said, it's illegal, we are against it, we will stand together. But it's exciting to see these young people that are standing and saying it's wrong.
Oh, wow.
And
one thing I just want to mention is you mentioned the foundation that you work for, but for our
ulu.
viewers that don't know the breadfruit,
so right.
The ulu. So we have 2 trees on our property, and
Nice.
I can't tell you, everybody got to know about this. It produces so much, right? The production,
Right.
nutrition, and everything.
Yes.
Like, why are we buying potatoes that are grown in?
I agree. I thoroughly agree. And kalo, we were just, so I'm on the board of directors for that at the botanical garden, and they have endemic, indigenous, and Polynesian introduced plants. So endemic and indigenous plants, just in case no one knows, or people don't know, I'm sure many do, were plants that came here on their own. So, and endemic, they're found nowhere else but Hawaii. Indigenous came on their own, but they're also found elsewhere. So things like the naupaka is found here, but you can find it in other areas of the Pacific. So Polynesian introduced, and so the breadfruit is perfect, because that's what we just got a grant to work on, the breadfruit. And I'm so happy you have a breadfruit tree. Oh my God, I wish I had one. But because they produce so many fruit. You know, you can pick them when they're younger and greener. And then they taste like almost like artichokes.
Oh.
Yeah. and
Okay.
steam
And
it.
you still
Yeah,
steam it, yeah, okay.
yeah,
Uh-huh.
and steam it. But anyway, so
Oh,
what we're doing is we
yeah.
got a grant from the Ka'ulunani
Okay.
group. So it's called the Ka'ulunani grant.
Mhm.
And we are looking specifically at the ulu tree.
Mm,
And one of the things we're doing is we're working with Liliuokalani Trust.
okay.
And we're air layering 300 shoots.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not sure if you know,
Mm-hmm.
but the Hawaiian ulu is sterile. It
Mm-hmm.
has no seeds.
Mm-hmm.
And the only way to reproduce it is by a cutting, so
Mm-hmm.
air layering or cutting
Mm-hmm.
or grafting or whatever.
Right.
So air layering is basically like grafting.
Yeah.
So we're doing 300 shoots. We plan to end up with at least 300, and we will be giving them away.
Oh.
And we are targeting
Mm-hmm.
families, Hawaiian families,
Oh,
and
nice.
other local families.
Oh, good.
So yeah, and so our thing is that we want to ensure food production for the future, and we think that this will be one way to help with that.
Amazing. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
so important.
So and then
so obvious to do, right? So
I know, right? And it's not really that difficult. I mean, it takes a little manpower.
yeah.
But so Liliuokalani Trust has been bringing their crew in, and then we're training people. So it's not just we're going to feed you, but you're also going to learn how to do this. So you could, in the future, when your tree grows and it sends up a shoot, you could make it and propagate for others.
Oh,
so
nice.
so we're doing that, and then we're doing videos about it.
Oh, good. Oh, good.
So yeah, so we will actually do the air layering video, and then we're doing one where we're looking at Hawaiians when they came here and they brought the ulu, and how they actually dig up a shoot, and then they cut it and they leave it until it grows its own roots, and then you take it.
We have to really treasure what we have here. But I also have this other thing that's
Oh, what else do you have? Oh my, Carlo. Oh, one of my
growing
favorites.
in our garden too.
Oh, nice. Oh, nice. Very
So
nice.
yeah, you must relate very well. I mean, you do relate very well to this, and I'd like to mention, the fantastic piece that you did for the Honolulu Biennial in
Oh, thank you.
2019, and these leaves were big inspiration for you, and such a beautiful piece. What was it? What was it like doing that work?
It was amazing to do the work.
Mm-hmm.
So it was very stressful
Mm-hmm.
because when I came up with this idea, I don't know what gave me this idea that I wanted to do this, but when I did, and I realized that I wanted to do that, I better not fail, because if I failed, I would have failed every person, the 21,000 plus people who signed these petitions.
Mm-hmm. Oh.
I would have failed them. And I actually have one sitting on my nightstand over there, if you want me to get one.
Sure.
Okay, because I actually have it sitting there because Bishop Museum is doing an exhibit that will open in January or February, I don't know, sometime early next year.
Mm-hmm.
And they asked if they could borrow one.
Oh, good.
So I have one. And the thing, let me get it and I'll tell you about it. So you can get a peek at it. Okay, I don't know. You won't be able to get a peek.
No.
But anyway, so you can see that the corm, the base of the kalo plant is made of pohakua stone. Mm-hmm. And I had actually put out a call on Facebook and asked them if they would donate a pohaku for my piece. So now that the piece is pretty much done, what I've been doing is everyone or every family that gave at least one pohaku is getting a plant.
Oh my God.
So I started giving them away. There was no way I could sell this. I mean, these are my ancestors and everyone's ancestors. But by doing that, I was able to connect us now with our ancestors. Oh. And the thing about the kalo plant, I'm sure you know, is that is our ancestor. That's our elder brother. That's what you were saying, yeah. So there's Mo'olelo, Papa Hanamoku, so Earth Mother, and Wakea, Sky Father came together, and they had a daughter, and her name was Ho'ohokukalani. Ho'ohokukalani and Wakea come together. And she's pregnant, she's with child, but she gives birth prematurely. The baby was born prematurely. So they took that unformed fetus and they buried it in the ground. And from that spot grows the first kalo plant. So what you had. And then they come together again and she's with child again. But this time the child is full term. And the child is the first Kanaka, the first Hawaiian. So we are the younger sibling. And the kalo is our elder. And so as the sibling, we have to take care of the kalo and the earth and everything else. And then we will be taken care of. So that was one of the reasons I chose the kalo plant, because of its connection to us, because it connects us to the earth, to our mother, earth mother, to the sky and everything else around us. So, and then I knew that I wanted to include every page of the Huayalohaina anti-annexation petitions.
Right.
So these petitions went around Hawaii Island, Maui, Molokai, Oahu, and Kauai, because they were pressed for time, I'm sure. And, you know, and in those days you had to go on horseback. So they would go on horseback, drop all the petitions off, and then circulate again and pick them all up. So on the back of the leaves, so you can see, I don't know if you can see, I'm not as good as you with the
No.
showing, but anyway,
I
so
see.
you can see the leaves.
Yes.
So on the front of the leaves, I actually did maps with the ahupua'a from that specific island.
Okay.
So let me see, which island is this? Okay, so this is Oahu. Actually, I can tell by the number of leaves. So each plant had a specific number of leaves. So Oahu had 6 because it has 6 major land divisions. Ko'olaupoko, Ko'olauloa, Wailua, Ewa, Waianae, and what is Kona. So Waikiki and Honolulu is in Kona this year. And then on the front, you have the land divisions, the ahupua'a, for those, the smaller land divisions. And on the back, every leaf has 1 page from the petitions. So,
and then on top of all that, you went to San Francisco and Washington, D.C.
I know, amazing. Thank you so much, Taiji. You know, that's one thing about art. People are more receptive to listen to what you're saying if they are first drawn in by your artwork. Or so if the artwork can draw them in, then it starts breaking down these barriers. And then, so it was interesting when I went there and I talked and I, you know, about the piece in San Francisco. And people in the audience came up later and said, we never knew, we never heard about this. I'm so glad you came. And that's the thing. And they said, you know, you're right, it was wrong. And so if we can break these barriers down, not just here, but across the United States and across the world, then people will understand why this is important, why it's so important, not just to us, but to all people, and especially to Native peoples. Because our story is just one story, but our story is the same story that you hear in other places. And these stories need to be heard. So it was amazing to go to San Francisco and Washington, D.C., but it was the same journey that the petitions had followed when they were presented and finally presented in Washington, D.C.
Oh my God.
So I thought this was so important.
Oh
my God, when Honolulu Biennial made that happen, I had to cry because it was a dream come true. It was so important. So thank you.
Well, the work certainly deserved all this attention. And
thank you for including me.
Of course.
I'm honored. I'm truly honored.
I'm so glad to. Okay.
So thank
Take
you.
care, but be
Okay,
careful.
you
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank
Okay.
you.
Bye.
Bye.
Aloha.
Aloha.